Hey everybody, Heather here. So today we're going to be coloring our March 2013 Christmas card kit. As you know, I'm trying to do a Christmas card kit every month, and so far so good. This month's kit I've picked out this cute Whimsy stamp image called Led by Love. Isn't he super cute? I thought he'd be really fun. If you want to see if this is still available, there's a link to the store down in the description box. Just head over to the store and type in Led by Love in the little search bar at the top of the store, and it'll pop up if it's still available. These are limited number kits. I only cut out 10. When they're gone, because I'm using paper that's old and I'm just going to use it up. So grab it while you can. I've already stamped my image on Neenah 80-pound Solar White cardstock with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. So let's color. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to recommend before we even start coloring is stamping your image on a scratch piece of coloring cardstock and practicing coloring that walrus. This will be my third time coloring it, and the first time I colored it, I hated it. And so it turned out better the second time, but I did have to try it first before I actually put the image on the card. So that's my recommendation, is to do one first and then, or at least color part of him, maybe part of his body down here, and then stamp him again and then get started coloring. So I'm going to start by outlining my image, and I'm going to do that with C0. And I'm not going to do the snow part, but I'm going to go up here where his little scarf touches the snow, and I'm going to very lightly make an outline clear around him back over to the other snow. Quick and easy. Let's go clear over here. We want to go around our little heart too. And when this dries, you'll hardly see it, but it does add a nice little outline around that outside. And in this little heart, there's a little dot right here that you can see through, so I'm going to color that in with this my C0 too. And actually, when I got done coloring it, I went in afterwards and I took my cloud template and I made some clouds in the background. Okay, all the way around the scarf. Back over here to the snow. After that dries, you'll hardly see it, but it does add a nice little outline on there. So for the snow, I'm going to use B000, B quadruple 0 in my colorless blender, and I'm going to start with B quadruple 0, and I'm just going to go right along the snow and add a little bit in there, go around him. Give him a nice little outline and do these little bumps down here. Go around this little foot. And get the snow over here. And we're going to come back around over to this side. And then I'm going to grab my B quadruple 0, and I'm just going to set down my brush on top of my B triple 0, and I'm going to lightly pull it out past my line. Out past, and that's just softening the edge of that line from my B triple 0. And then I'm going to grab my colorless blender, and because I didn't color my walrus, I don't have to worry about getting it on him, so I'm just going to start here at the side. I'm going to brush clear over both colors and out here into the background. And this does work best if your colorless blender is full or not running out of ink. The more ink, the best. And just soften all those lines. And then after I got the image all done, I went back in when I was done and I put some stickles, icicles on there just to add some glitter down in the bottom where the snow is. So let's conquer that walrus now. So I'm going to start on the easiest part and do his face first, and then I'll move over here to his body, which was a little harder. So I'm going to start with E57, and for my walrus I'm going to use E57, 55, 53, 51, and 50. So I'm going to start with E57, and I'm going to add my dark shadows. So I'm going to go right underneath of his hat and give it a little line. Like that. And then he's got a great little wrinkle right here, so I'm going to go over that little wrinkle in the back of his neck. And then for his mouth, I'm going to go from his tooth, underneath of his snout, and over to the other side. And then he's got a little wrinkle right here, so I'm going to add a little bit right there. And to these two little wrinkles. And I think I'll make them just a little bit longer. Like that. And then I'm going to grab 55. And we're going to brush over that 57, so I'm going to lightly flick my pen on the edge of my 57 and add my 55. It's over here. I'm going to go down, and I'm pulling it away. And I'm going to go over that again, soften it just a little bit more. And then we'll do the same thing for his snout. I'm going to get down underneath here and soften that 57. So we're just brushing right over that line. And let's soften this line here. Let's go. Add a little bit of this right along this edge here too. So I'm brushing right along that edge and flicking towards the middle. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to grab 53, and we're going to do the same thing. So you're going to go up here, and you're going to lay down on top of your 55, and we're going to add just a little bit more. And go down here and get underneath of his mouth. And right along that line. Now I think I'm going to go ahead and use this pen to bring a little bit of this color down right next to his scarf, so it's a little bit darker right there. I didn't want it too dark, but I wanted a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go right back over these two colors this line I just put down, and add just another coat. I want to brush that line just a little bit more. Okay. Then I'm going to grab 51, and we're going to do the same thing. Go up here and go lay down on top of your 53, and brush right along that edge and pull out here into your white space. I want to get down here on his neck, and I'm going to go ahead and do this little spot underneath of his chin all the way in, or I guess that's his mouth. Okay, I like that, and I think I'll actually go up here and go one more time over this line. Okay, and then I'm going to fill it in with E50. So I've touched down on my 51, and I'm just filling in that white. Brush right over that neck right there. Okay, that looks pretty good, so I'm going to leave that. Now, if you think it needs a second coat, you'd go ahead and just start again with your 57 and go from there. So now I'm going to go back with my 57, so let's do that. Add some shadows, so I'm going to start right here at the penguin's little fanny, and I'm going to go along this little line right here and add my little dark line. Then I'm going to go underneath of him, and I'm just adding a small amount. and I'm going to go clear down to where this little scarf meets the other part that flicks out. Then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to start underneath of his scarf, and I'm going to add some shadows underneath. That. And then we're going to get this line right here. And this line. And we'll get right here where his leg is touching. And then I'm going to do right along the bottom of his foot. And let's go up these little toes just a little bit. Okay, and then we're going to get these lines that the artist has already given us. And I'm going to go right down along his belly. And over here to his tail. Or his flipper, or whatever that's called. Okay, and then over here we're going to get this line, and I'm going to go right along the back side of his flipper, down to the bottom. And then right in here, I'm going to say that, it helps if you can see it on camera, huh? So I'm going to say that he's got these little lines here in his flipper. So up here, I'm going to kind of imagine that it connects down here. And I'm going to put a little bit of a line right there, and I'm going to kind of pretend that it's going to connect to a couple of these little lines right there. And I'm going to continue up here, and we're going to get these other shadow lines, or these wrinkles, like that. Okay, and then I'm going to go with 55. Okay, so from there, I did my pen in a straight line. I just kind of drew a line along the edge. But now I want to take my pen, and I actually want to feather it in, so I'm going to lay it still down on top of my 57, but I want my pen to flick so that when I brush, it's flicking, it's darker at this end, but out here it's getting smaller because I'm bringing my hand up. So it's lighter out here towards the edge where my white is. And I'm going to go all the way down here towards his tail. So I'm adding a little bit of this color all the way around. Okay. I'm going to go down here and do the same thing. So let's do, and you may too have to, it depends on how your flicking goes, you might want to turn your walrus around. If you flick better one way than you do the other way. I'm just trying to keep the picture straight, so I'm just kind of winging it. Okay, let's go ahead and get some of this. And we will continue around his belly. Get some of these lines over here. And then he's got some, remember we laid some dark down right here, so let's go ahead and flick that away. And then we'll want to get his little flipper over here too. And we'll go over these lines right here. Okay, so far so good. So now I'm going to grab 53 and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and start down here on this side. So I'm going to lay down on top of my two colors and I'm just going to flick my brush up past those two. And clear around the side here. I'll turn my paper just a little bit so I can try not to color outside the lines. Okay, and we want to do his chest. I'm going to go ahead and do this all the way around this scarf too, so I'm going to darken that up just a little bit. And then I'm going to come up here, I'm going to just connect that line there. And then we're going to do the same thing up here, so we're just going to flick right along the edge and brush out here into the middle. And we'll continue down here to his flipper. Okay, then we're going to grab 51. And since I stopped here, I'll just go ahead and continue down here. So let's add a little bit of this to his flipper. And then we're going to go from this way. So again, I'm just going to start at the 57. I'm just going to flick my brush clear past all three colors and add some more color to his stomach there. Okay, and there's not much left over here on his chest, so I'm just going to go ahead and fill that in. Let's go ahead and fill in this leg right here too. Okay, we're just going to continue, clear around until we get to the other side. Okay, then I'm going to grab E50, and we're going to color his tail in all the way. I'm going to brush right over that whole tail. Okay, and then over here, again, I'm just going to start down here at the bottom. And I'm going to flick up past all four colors and into that white space. And even though I finished his feet off, I'm going to go ahead and just use this color to brush over all of those colors. And come back around over here. And we're just filling that white in. Let's get that completely filled in there. Okay, so that's pretty good for a first coat, but I still have a line up here at the top that I'm going to want to fix, so I'm not going to use my darkest color. I'm all done with that one, but I'm going to go to 55, and I'm going to, let's start right here under our penguin. I want to flick on the 57, past the 55 I did last time, and pull a little bit more of that color down here onto my walrus. I'm going to go all the way over to my scarf. And then I'm going to grab 53. And we're going to flick over that edge. $51. And then 50. Okay, I think that looks a lot better. So let's go over here and do this little flipper too. So I'm going to start with 57, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a line right next to his body. And then just like this other fin over here, I'm going to pretend that there's little lines. Maybe leave a little crease. So I'm just going to draw a little bit of that in. Like that. Then I'm going to grab 55. And we're going to flick away from our 57. And then 53. $51. And 50 to finish it off. Alright, So I'm happy with how he looks because I had to actually look a walrus up online, and they're kind of a dark brown crusty color, and they got all these wrinkles and stuff. They are just not even at all. So I'm happy with all this texture that I have going on inside my walrus. If you're not, you'd want to go ahead and do it a second time if you wanted. That's why I suggested practicing, because it was hard the first time. I had a lot of lines and I hated it. I wanted it to be more smooth, and the second time through with the flicking away helped me a lot with adding just the texture without making it look completely terrible. So let's go up here too and do his snout. And for his snout, I'm going to use R12. So I'm going to take my R12 and I'm going to just brush up here onto his little whiskers over here to the other side. And then I'm going to grab R11 and I'm going to brush right over that edge and soften it up. And then I'm going to finish it off with E50 by just brushing over the whole thing. And if you think that's too light, you just go ahead and start with your R12 again. R11. And then go over the whole thing again with E50. And then for his nose, I used T10. And I tried to leave just a little white dot in the middle. And I don't use my T10 very much, so it's really wet. So I tried to be really careful so it wouldn't make a big blobby mess. You could also take your multi-liner and color in his nose too if you wanted. But I just wanted to leave a little white dot in there in the middle of his nose for a highlight. Okay, so let's go work on a little penguin over here next. And for that I'm going to use T8, T6, T4, and T0. And I'm going to start up here on his head with T8. And he's got some great little lines here, so I'm going to go right along the edge of his scarf. And again, I don't use my T's very much, so I'm being careful because they're really wet. If you don't have the T's, you could switch the markers for N's, W's, C's. It's just going to have a different gray look. Okay, and this is T6. And I'm just lightly going over the edge of that T8 and flicking out here into the outside. And then I'm going to finish that off with T4. And let's go down here to his body, and for that we're going to use T8 again. So I'm going to go right along the edge of his scarf here where it's touching his arm, and around the back of his body, his tail. I'm just going to fill that tail all the way in, and I'm going to come down here along his leg, like that. And then we're going to go underneath of his arm, and back down here to connect. And because I want his to fill his fanny in a little bit more, I'm going to go ahead and still take this pen and just lightly brush up a little bit more, filling in this area back here a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my T6, and you're going to want to brush over your T8. We're going to add some more color in there. Brush that up. And I'm going to add a little bit of this along the bottom of his arm and along that little mitten there. And then I'm going to fill that in with T4. And brush it again, get rid of that line. And a third time. Okay, looks pretty good. And then I'm going to take my T0 pen, and I'm just going to add some highlights for to his white, because I don't want to color it in. I'm just going to go along the edge of his face there, back over here on this side, and down here where his stomach is, we're going to go right along his mitten, and along to the back down here, like that. And then I'm just going to leave the rest white. Okay, so for the penguin's foot and his beak, we're going to use YR18 and 14. I'm going to start with YR18. And for that, I added to his beak, I went along the back side of his beak, and I colored the bottom of his beak. And then for his foot, I went along his little body, and I went along the bottom of his foot. And then I took my 14 and lightly brushed over the edge of my 18 and filled the rest of it in. And I'll go over that a couple times just to soften that line. I'll go over his beak once more too. Next, let's work on some green, and so he's got green on both the hats, the scarves of both of the animals. So we're going to start with that. So let's do YG 95, 93, and 91. And I'm going to start with my YG 95, and let's do this penguin first. So I'm going to do the bottom of this little ball, and then I'm going to skip a stripe because we're going to make one stripe yellow. I'll go over here and do this stripe. And then let's skip one, and we'll do this stripe. And then I'm going to grab 93 and brush right over 95 a little bit. We want to leave a little bit of space for, because those are kind of small areas, so you want to leave a little bit of space for your dark, or for your lightest one. And then we'll grab 91 to fill it in. Careful trying not to go outside the lines. And get up this one, and we'll fill this one in. And 91 is a completely, to me it seems like a different color, so I always like to go over the whole thing just to blend them all a little bit better. Okay, and then I'm going to go back with my 95 and we'll do a scarf. So for a scarf, I'm going to add a little bit here on this side, and he's got a little crease right there, so I'm going to make that exaggerated a little bit. Same for this side, we'll exaggerate that little crease, and I'm going to add a little bit back here where his scarf is touching him, and the same where this one comes out from underneath the other one. And then I'm going to grab 93, and again I want to leave a little bit of white so I can fill it in with my lightest color. Let's bring this one up here to where it goes back up. And then we're going to fill it in with 91. And again, because it's such a light color, I'm going to go over the whole scarf with that. Okay, he looks pretty cute. So let's go do the walrus's hat. So again, we're going to start with 95. I'm going to do the back, and he's got this little bump right here, so I'm going to give that a crease. So I'm going to go right along the edge and flick away from the edge. When I get to this one, I'm going to go out a little bit more, and we'll flick out past that little crease. Like that. I'm going to grab 93. And we want to fill in some of this area here. I think I'll go a little bit further out. I'm going to go over the top of this hump right here and color that in just a little bit. And then we're going to fill in the top of that hat with 91. Well, let's go down here and do his scarf. And for his scarf, I'm actually going to use 95 for the lines. So he's got these great little lines in here, so I'm going to use 95 on each of those. I'm going to go right along each of these great little stripes he's got in here. And then they switch direction over here where his knot is tied. So I'm going to go ahead and get in there. And down in here. Okay, and then for the inside stripes, I'm going to use 93 and 91. So I'm going to start with my 93, and I'm over here, I'm going to do this middle section. So I'm going to add a little bit of my dark color, darkest one here, which is 93, right along the bottom. And let's do this middle right here on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of color in there. And then let's do, for this middle bow tie part, let's do this middle knot part. And then we'll skip a bow, or a row of dots. And then over here where it's tucking out again, I'm going to go back to being in the middle. And then I'm going to grab 91 and we're going to fill those all the way in. So I just go ahead and brush right over the 93 and fill in that whole area because it's pretty small, so I didn't leave too much space left. Okay, so that was all the green, so let's go ahead and do the yellow, and for that I'm going to use Y26 and 21, and I'm going to go ahead and start over here back on my penguin. So I'm going to take Y26 first, and I'm going to add some right along the edge of the bottom. And his mitten right here too, so let's go ahead and get the bottom of the mitten. And then I'm going to fill it in with 21. So I brush right over 26. Flick right up there to the top. And then I grab 26 again, and we're going to do, well, let's do this little pom-pom on the little walrus's hat. And then I'm going to go down here and get each one of these little lines on his scarf. And we're just going to fill those with some yellow. There's one between his foot and him. I'm just going to fill that one all the way in. And then I'm going to grab my 21 to fill those all the way in. So let's get up here on the pom-pom. Fill in that scarf. So that was the yellow. So let's color this stick he's got right here. And for that I'm going to use E57. And I'm just going to color it in. And it's pretty small, so you're just going to want to use just the tip of your pen. Go all the way up. And out here to the end. Alright, and for the heart, I'm going to use E19, R29, R27, and R24. I'm going to start with E15. Whoops. Looks like I have the wrong cap on my pen. Alright, so one end of my pen has the wrong cap, so I'll have to fix that later, but it is E15. Just want to make sure I had the right color. And so I'm going to color just a little bit of this brownish red on this side of the heart. Go down along this edge and brush up a little bit like that. And then I'm going to take R29 and I'm going to go right over the top of that. It was just to add the shadow underneath and make it a little bit darker. And I'm going to go just a little bit past where my E15 was. So to soften that line just a little bit. And then we're going to grab R27 and we're lay down top of our 29. And again, you're going to flick past. But I want to leave some white for my lightest color. And I think I'll go on top of this little dot right here. And and then I'm going to fill it in with 24, and I missed a little spot right there, so I'm just going to dab it with my pen. And brush that edge right up here. And brush all the way around. So that is our March 2013 Christmas card kit, Led by Love by Whimsy Stamps. And here is the finished card. Let's see if we can zoom out a little bit more. And I colored all the hat and stuff green because I thought it went great with this Bow Bunny snowfall paper. And then again, I've added my Stickles Stardust to this heart, to his little pom-pom here, and this little pom-pom. And then I use icicle stickles down here on the snow to add some glitter. You can see that if I twist it a little bit there. And then this is glittered cardstock, and then this little cinnamon I think was a brush of some sort that I printed out a while back, and I found it in my stash of cinnamons. So I hope you had fun coloring with me today. If you liked it, please hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe if you're not a subscriber already. And we'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.